Bonjour, Von Cruel. How you doing, man? You get a gold star today, you certainly do. And it's about time. Hey, traveler. Oh man, I'm Hey, Mark. Good to see you. You know, I tell you I wanted today to be a uh so talking about a checkbox, but really what I want to talk about is a focus on the important things. A lot of times when we're talking about, oh, what this and this and this should go into a quality watch, we end up focusing a lot of times on a lot of things that aren't very important. So that's what I wanted to take a look at today. Hey, Michael, how's it going? Hey, Graham, good evening to you as well. Today's afternoon here still. It was like 0 degrees Fahrenheit when I got up. And so I put on my long sleeve tee, a flannel shirt, a wool vest, and then my wife sent me out to get the mail. And I ended up with, I don't know what this is made out of, some critter. And then on top of that, I had a jacket. It has been really cold. So that's how come I'm all paddled out. Yeah, you guys in Kansas really got hit hard. I, the thing, we got hit by a lot of snow. I don't think one snowflake has melted. It's been so cold. And it looks, they finally took it days for the snow that was in the trees to sort of drop off. Man, we still got it's going out. It's really funny. It's all of these walls of snow, and like, yeah, I feel like we're in Siberia. Anyway, good luck with you guys in Kansas. We got the snow, which I'll take over ice. A lot of the guys in the South, especially, got the ice. I'll take. Ah, man, that is rough. So everybody, be careful. That sounds like my wife. All right, you be careful. When I went out to get the mail, watch out for the ice. Okay, got the got the mail without any mishap. Okay, let's talk about a checkbox with a focal point. Yeah, I know. LA. Well, that's my home state is California, Southern California, Santa Barbara and San Diego. And we had no winters to speak of there. I tell you a place that has I was an associate dean at University of Texas in El Paso. And El Paso, even though it's like really high up in the Rockies, or they're called the Franklin Mountains. The winters were just wonderful there. I think we had about 2 months of winter, and they were very nice. I've been looking at it lately, though, and boy, they're getting hit like everybody else. So, anyway, I hope everybody's doing okay. California, Mark, I hear you guys, you got fire and wind and rain and everything else. The only thing I can say about being in New England with all these big storms, we expect it. So we're okay. Hey, Glenn, remember Chaucer's book in Santa Barbara? Chaucer's book in Santa Barbara? No. Huh. No, everything about Santa Barbara I just love. I lived up on we had my grandparents were on East Arriaga and my folks were up on the Riviera. But the thing I liked the best was walking to the courthouse. Who in the world would find walking to the courthouse entertaining. Well, it's a beautiful courthouse, it really is. In fact, our art teacher said, "Okay, go find the irony of the Santa Barbara courthouse." Anyway, um oh, Chaucer Books, a bookstore. Boy, I don't remember it. A few bars I remember. Oh, yeah, Mark, those are awful. Famous use, but I'll be darned. You got me on that one. I go to the Santa Barbara Library. I spent a lot of my misspent youth there. That and out by the Mission, they had this wonderful, museum, a natural history museum, and they had stuff for kids. Great time. Okey doke. Did I say something about focus? I got my focus off. Let's focus on what are the most important things for a really a good solid watch, something that would be just this side of great. In other words, a really good watch, sort of above the average watch, but not in the crazy atmosphere or stratosphere of watches that are going way up there. Something that would be north of Rolex and something south of FP Journe, somewhere right in that area. And so, what would be the thing, the most important thing to focus on? I know what it is for me, but I'm going to shut up for a second and see what it is what you guys are like. No, not necessarily Von Krul. There's some good off the shelf movements, but the thing is, what's the difference between a a sort of a cheap off the shelf movement versus a really good one? Because I think Crenode, I think that Voiture, I think that Suarez ETN, they all have really good off the shelf ones. Um, Agenor doesn't have any off the shelf. They're all specifically made, and the only people who get them are the people who bought them, including the movements. That's sort of a cool thing. Oh boy, how you doing, North Central Wisconsin? I don't know if you guys are snowed under like we are. I hope you're okay. Hand finishing on the movement. See, Ilko, in terms of hierarchy, in terms of focus, that would not be one. I I think that I like good finishing. I like gloves, but in terms of like, okay, let's focus on the most important things because you can take a pretty, fairly junky movement and polish it up and, look really nice. But that's what I'm trying to sort of like, okay, yeah, that's nice. Or people will start off, well, how deep underwater can I go? You know, those are out of focus. I don't know. I think the focus on, well, never mind. I want to hear more from you guys. Case and dial design with interesting movement. Yeah. Now, a little more specific on that. At least as much focus on the movement as the case. At least. Hand finishing on the movement is important. I don't know why. It suggests an exhibition case back is also important. Really, what's the purpose of really good on gloves? I mean, other than looks, because I don't think the first thing you want to focus on is looks. Hi, Bull. Greetings from Anchorage. Okay. No, those guys know snow. How you guys been up there? Hi, Tony. movement is the heart of a watch. How much do those off the shelf qualify, movement cost? Yeah, g it's what I think is that when you look at a movement, one of the things I think is that just a well-constructed movement, the, um, the kind of finishing. We'll start with the minimum finishing. You don't want no finishing. What is the purpose of having any finishing on a movement if you're gonna have it? I mean, other than the fact that people are gonna look at it, but what would be a good reason for it? Now, one of the things that I think Von Krul was implying is that it implies, more work on the movement. That's true. Either that or it's a paint job over sort of a ho-hum movement. I think the real thing, and this is where I sort of run into a paradox. Um, I really like a good regulator. In other words, a regulator that really can, does its job. Um, what we got at Larique, we didn't expect. Jean-Marc Viderec happened to put together a special regulator called an adjun pit. And so we've had the adjun pit regulators, and it's you can regulate both the beat and the frequency. And so that I'm happy about that. Another kind, though, I like is a swan neck, or what they have with even Moulet has, that's a very inexpensive movement. They have what they call woodpecker uh, regulators. To me, that's important. Without a regulator, the other kind of thing that a lot of people would argue, and I wouldn't buck them on this, is that free sprung is very important. And so if you have a free sprung, your actual regulation is moving the weights on the balance wheel. So how that is done, I think is really, really very important. Hi, Brian. How you doing, man? Ismail, I think I shot you a email earlier today. Perhaps a special function, flyback. Flyback is it can be, um, but I mean, if the I think the first focal point before you get the flybacks and also on gloves, some other kinds of things in about the movement that I think makes it special, makes it something that's not any old movement. Now, I've said before, I believe that some kind of constant force element within the movement is very important, but it's very hard to find one of those that's not really expensive or adds a big expense to it or happens to be in a really expensive watch. Um, the project that we're working on, yeah, we wanted a watch that had the double barrels in parallel, but the I'll say the off the shelf watch, not the off the shelf movement, but the off the shelf watch is like it's over 20,000 bucks. And so that's, you know, that doesn't come under like something that you want to start off with. We're trying to start the goodness has got to be in some kind of context of what a collector's. And I'm talking about collectors. Your everyday person who wants a good watch would probably be best served with something like, well, if not a smartwatch, um, sort of a good, reliable everyday watch. There are a lot of those. Rolexes are good everyday watches. There's in certain environments they may look, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but they can look like a little kids, you know, with those little toy things you can run around. I don't wanna say anything bad about Rolex because they have super good quality in their, process and their procedures. So, okay, so that's one thing I think is that if we, focus on what the movement, why is it a good movement? Why is it valuable? And I don't think it's because they polished it up. I do think that the people at the what is it called? The Foundation of High Horology, something like that. That thing is run by and was started by Richemont. And anything started by Richemont or Swatch or even LVMH, they're sort of thinking about how to make a watch more valuable to justify certain pricing goals. Okay, just back to straight horology. What would you guys do? How about a beautifully finished movement with an A? Never mind. Hey, by the way, how's everything, Brian? I've been reading about some rough times they've had in Nashville, just checking to make sure everything's okay there. Um, Finger bridges are cool. Yeah, I like finger bridges too. I there's as much as I like them, I have to admit there's for better viewing the movement. Doesn't mean I don't like them. I love them, and I like great glass. It's not that, but I mean, in terms of focal points, what are the key things that without the whole watch is just sort of junk? What else you guys have? Yeah, you're right, Lee, about, originally, the decorations had a practical absolutely. The Geneva waves were there to c catch dust or anything that came in, and the reason for and same thing with the perlage, and the finishing was so that little pieces of metal wouldn't like come off and mess up the movement. So if you have a lot of it, you have it well finished, and you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, those are you're right, Lee. There were very practical reasons, but they sort of became something else. Now, somebody had said that hand finishing was really important. Why would you say that hand finishing is really important on the bridges and plates of the movement? I like that, Von Krul. The design needs to make sense. I like that. It has to make beautiful sense. Hi, Mark. Not showered, not snowed under anymore. That's good. That's really good. Just coming out of a deep freeze. Man, we're still in the deep freeze. My first watch is a Bulova skeletonized movement. Oh, that's interesting. I really enjoy being able to see part of the movement through the dial. Pano inverse is an example. Yeah, Pano inverse, it's also one of my favorite watches. I love Pano inverse, and that's the one that have sort of the butterfly, regulators with it. That's a really interesting watch, both horologically, and it's one of the few watches that, Swatch has allowed, Glashütte Original to put it not to put in that, the silicon. Brian, they closed the school for a week. They got over 2 inches of ice, man. That's ice is so dangerous. God, I'll tell you, I'll take my foot and a half of snow over ice. They're not used to it. No kidding. They're not. Yeah, no. I tell you, even up here, Brian, you know that if we get a lot of ice, it's just no fun at all. Geez, well, I hope everything's okay. Design harmony, I like that term, traveler. That's a wonderful term. Design harmony. Yeah, that's that would be something. But we haven't even gotten out of the movement yet, so let's go back to the movement. One of the things I think that is very cool, and I'm wondering if it really works that well, all right? And that's the biaxial, coaxial, movement, the, George Daniels, movement in the Omegas. I I wonder if they do what they're supposed to do rather than your, what are they called? The Geneva fork or I think it's just a simple old fork, which to me is one of those simple ingenuities. On the other hand, the George Daniels, escapement there were a few tricks to it that are sorta cool, and I wonder, has anybody ever tested the difference? Because even the very best watches, use a simple release on it. Way too many open case backs. I'd rather have a slimmer watch over a look at the average movement. It's sort of funny, it's sort of like having a micro rotor versus a full rotor. I'm I'm not big about automatics. I have several automatics, but I like them. But one of my best watches was actually special designed by, Vitarec for, Van Cleef& and Arpels. The time here and time elsewhere, the double, jumping hours. The the micro rotor, though, whereas it gives you more to look at, you have to make the balance wheel smaller with that, and so I like the bigger balance wheel. On the other hand, uh, double barrels actually do the same thing. They take up a real estate, so you gotta be careful about the size of either the size of the barrel or the width of your balance wheel. I like big balance wheels. Um a lot of your top watchmakers have big balance wheels. One thing I like about, Caribou and Lannon's, watches is he uses these nice big balance wheels on it. Why a big balance wheel? Because they have greater inertia, and with greater inertia, you have fewer things that are gonna throw them off. Now, once they're thrown off, they take longer to sort of spool up to get even again, but they're just sort of a nice. Beretta shotguns. Beretta shotguns. I don't know too much about Beretta shotguns. The shotguns that if I got a shotgun, what I'd get is a Holland& and Holland. I love those. FP Jorn took some Holland& and Hollands, and he made there are certain watches, I think it was some of his chronomet surveys, he simply made the cases out of, gunmetal, and in fact, piece of trivia, FP Journe has an entire collection of watches made of nothing but gunmetal. Good gunmetal is, same as good steel gunmetal is the same as good steel, watch metal. Can anybody produce an affordable remontoire? Peter, I'm glad you asked that question. One of the things that's the same question I have, and that was exactly the thing that Stephen Forsay told me. I said, "Well, how come more people don't have, uh, remontois. He said, because they're very, very difficult to create. And I started playing around with one, trying to figure out to, put like one of my popsicle and wood models together. My God, they're really, there are a lot of different ways. To me, what I'd like to see, there are two kinds of sort of mechanical organization. One type looks like a Rube Goldberg thing with going everywhere, and for some reason, I sort of, when I look closely at Derek Pratt's remontoire that was put out by Luca Soprana, and it's really beautiful, but it looks a little Rube Goldberg, not too much Rube Goldberg, but it's got this like a palette fork that goes in several different directions doing the same thing. It's like doing this and then doing this at the same time. It's got a lot of work to it. But man, I'll tell you, that's uh I think, Peter, that's the $9 jillion question. Larique, of all people, of all others, that is one of the projects that we've got trying to get done, working with a really great watchmaker. So that would be something. When you say affordable, um, I think for Larique, it would be a sort of a bump up for Larique. For everybody else, it would be like, how did you guys do that? with Simply did it with a great watchmaker in our subscription system that we have. So, yeah, by the way, maybe by the next time, next week when we have this talk, uh, Larique will be, let me see, get the official name for it. Where is it? Here it is. Larique Society Cooperative. That will be, and we will be, I guess you'd call it incorporated as a Swiss entity, and we hope to open up a Swiss bank account. Now, the Swiss bank account um, is not to hide our misgained fortune. One thing Larique has been very good about as nonprofit, we are excellent at not making profit, but we can, the watches, we always end up with just a little more, sometimes a lot more than we had planned on. So, so that's the answer to that question. See, this is that trouble. I keep trying to say, well, let's focus on something. Well, I guess, Peter, you were trying to focus on remontoire, which is one of the constant force mechanism. Something I would like to see go on. A lot of people like fusee and chains. And to me, the fusee and chain, the problem has always been that little, looks like the towers of Hanoi, the little stack that you have um, where the chain keeps its constant force on the mainspring. But then the one that Romain Gauthier did recently, in fact, I think it just came out, is that instead of using a fusee, he uses a snail cam. And so the old snail cam, the chain wraps around it, and then it pops it down when at some point. I think, trying to think what it works like a fusee though, except it does it on the width of the snail cam. Really amazing watch. So now that's a possibility. That would be, of course, Romain Gauthier put in these ruby. You got to see the chain on that thing. It's got these ruby linking. Okay, how you doing there, Alpha? Kevin, right? There you go. Yeah, I wouldn't pay big bucks for a tourbillon. Me neither, and I didn't. I'll get one from China, and it costs under $1,000. Mine cost under. I got mine for 100 and something and then built my own watch. So I can say I built my own tourbillon. Putting frost cloth over my orchids. Man, Jesus. I don't think how they here, like I've been whining about, it's been so cold that I don't think that would help at all where we are, but yeah, Mark. Yeah, there's some I mean, I think that I feel the same way about, there's certain brands that have that really good quality. In fact, some of the high quality, watches have Jaeger-LeCoultre movements, so which makes them as such. Geneva stops. Um, the Geneva stop works are really fairly simple, and I can tell you how you can set up a do-it-yourself Geneva stop, okay? Here's one I will demonstrate with this is a hand wound, Vacheron Constantin Historiques. Whoops, there it is. Historique, American, 1921. Here's how to do the same thing that the Maltese cross does with the stopworks. You wind it up and count the number of winds to it. So let's say that it winds it up and you're winding away, and at 100 winds, it's all filled up. To put in your own do-it-yourself stopworks, just wind it up 80% of that. It's 100, so just wind it up 80 times, and that should put it in the sweet spot that's stopped by the, Maltese, cross. So there. We should build a watch and put magnifying glass instead of crystals on the movement. Oh, Rolex beat us to it. They they put a magnifying glass over the date window. A lot of Rolex fans hate that. I think it's great. You can see the date. Okay, guys. Well, listen, my time is about run out, I'm afraid, so I've gotta run, but I wanted to get trying to get some focus, and it's my fault as much as anybody's for getting sidetracked, but I think they're good things to think about. Anyway, okay, and the other part too, let's figure out I think, Von Krul is right, looking for ways to do a great work on a budget. Makes sense. Take care, everyone, and if you're in ice, snow, and miseries, or you live in Florida, I hope it's in the south part. Take care. We'll see you guys.